Hello and welcome to Mangum News. I'm your host, Elijah Mangum. This week we'll be discussing the increasing control of the Taliban in Afghanistan, the resignation of New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, Governor Tate Reeves extending Mississippi's state of emergency, new mask mandates in local schools, my review of the pilot of What If, and my exclusive interview with Therese Apel of Dark Horse Press. Without further ado, let's begin. Following the withdrawal of U.S. troops from Afghanistan, the Taliban has invaded and seized multiple major cities across the country, including its third largest city of Herat on Thursday. Many fear a complete Taliban takeover of Afghanistan when the U.S. troops completely withdraw. Meanwhile, the U.S. troops were sent to aid American evacuations from the U.S. Embassy in Afghanistan. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo announced on Tuesday that he would resign his governorship effective August 24th. This comes in wake of the sexual harassment allegations, a nursing home scandal, and an impeachment inquiry. New York Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul will succeed Cuomo as the first female governor of New York. Governor Tate Reeves announced on Thursday that the COVID-19 state of emergency will be extended for 30 more days. It was initially set to expire on August 15th. The governor has confirmed that there will be no more lockdowns or statewide mandates. The Rankin County and Pearl school districts are now requiring masks to be worn by students, teachers, and staff while inside school buildings. The new policy went into effect on Tuesday. On Wednesday, parents in the Rankin County School District protested the new policies. Many parents said that they were disappointed and even angry about the mask mandate being enforced, but they were most upset on how it was being handled. On Wednesday, Marvel Studios' first animated show, What If, premiered on Disney+. The first episode asked the question, what if Agent Carter became the first Avenger instead of Captain America? Captain Carter succeeds with beautiful animation and awesome action sequences, but has a story that is too reminiscent of that of 2011's Captain America, the First Avenger. This week I had the great privilege of interviewing Therese Apel. If you don't know, Therese Apel is a former reporter of the Clarion Ledger and WLBT. She is now the founder and CEO of Dark Horse Press, which is now the largest growing news outlet in Mississippi. To learn more about her story and Dark Horse Press, here's my exclusive interview with Therese Apel.
I'm Therese Apel. I am the founder and CEO of Dark Horse Press, which was started because I was finishing out my first contract in television and I just knew that I wanted to do something a little bit different. So I've been talking to God about what do I do with this career that I've built if TV is not the answer right now. And it was like I just kind of felt this urge to do it myself. So about 3 months ago on May 15th we launched our website, and it's called Dark Horse Press. You can find it at Dark Horse Press now. And every day we cover different crime stories, different community news, and when we can, we cover, entrepreneurial and business news.
Can you describe your journey as a journalist from your early days to Clarion Ledger to WLBT and now Dark Horse Press?
Sure. So it's a long story. I'll make it quick. When I was 15 years old, I didn't make cheerleader. And there was an ad in the local paper that said they needed sports stringers to write high school sports. And my dad brought it into where I was crying over not making cheerleader and put it on the bed and said, go tell that man you can write. So I went over to the Copiah County Courier, which is the weekly newspaper there in Copiah County, or was at the time, and I started writing sports for them that year at age 15. From there, I went to the University of Mississippi, where I was the second sports editor of the Daily Mississippian and the first sports director of News Channel 12, which is now 99, I think. From there, I taught for 3 years and decided that that wasn't for me, and went back into journalism at the Southern Sentinel in Ripley. Then went to the Brookhaven Daily Leader, and I was there for 4 years. That's where I really found my love for emergency services, first responders, police, that kind of thing. And then in September of 2010, there was an ad in the paper for a cops reporter at the Clarion Ledger. And I thought, well, that sounds like what I do. So I applied, and I got the job. I was there for about 8 years, and then left to go be the spokesperson for the Department of Public Safety. While I was there, I figured out that I'm not a politician, I'm not a bureaucrat. So just figured that wasn't a match anymore, and went on to WLBT, and I was there for 2 years, and I love TV. It's a whole lot of fun, but the way it works sometimes is a little different than the way I'm geared. So at some point I was just thinking about what I was going to do next, and I thought, why don't I start my own crime website? And that's what we've done.
Can you describe the day in the life of Therese?
Do you want the boring day or the exciting day? The good thing about this job is that you don't know what a day is going to be like. You know, you get up, you come into work, and there's no telling what's going to happen that day. And that's what's fun about spot news and breaking news to me, is just that, you know, excitement each day of like, what are we going to find? What's going to happen today? There are days, like there was one day, and you're probably going to ask about this, but if not, I'll tell you now. There was one day that started for me around 3 a.m. when I got a phone call that a deputy had been killed in Lincoln County and 3 other people were dead too. So I got in my car and drove from Flowood down to Brookhaven. By the time I got there, the person who did it was supposed to be on the run with a 16-year-old in his car. Come to find out, he ended up killing 4 other people, so he killed 8 people overnight that night. And while I was standing on the side of the road when they arrested him, he confessed to my camera to killing the police officer. And so I actually had that on video, you know, this confession from this man that just killed 8 people. That's an unusual beginning to the day. On a normal day, I get up and I come in around 8:30 or 9, and I start off by just looking at the website, at all the websites, seeing what news is out there, what needs to be reported today that I don't know about, check your email, check your text, that kind of thing, and see if you've got any tips from anybody else. And then just set to updating the website. But we have someone that does our weather for us and a couple other stories. Nicole comes in around the same time I do. We usually kind of update each other and then launch into the day, whatever it holds. And usually if it's not something breaking, it's just a lot of, you know, we have a lot of business things to attend to. There's a lot of phone calls to be made about stories that are ongoing. I have a couple of long-term stories, cold cases and things like that I work on every day, just, you know, little piece by little piece. So you can't really encapsulate a day. It just kind of is, what are we going to do today? Kind of like Pinky and the Brain. We're going to take over the world.
Can you tell us a little bit about what Dark Horse Press does, as well as how can we be supported?
Sure. So Dark Horse Press, we were founded. I guess we were, because Nicole is as much a part of this as I am. The reason that we got started was because in the middle of the pandemic, a lot of what has been going on is very political, and it's very much, you know, focused on all the arguments that are being had. And as a reporter, I got tired of being in the middle of that. So I wanted to start something that focused on what I'm good at, which is crime and emergency services, you know, the stuff that people watch hours and hours and hours of crime TV for. You know, the ID channel is for our audience type people. So I was thinking, you know, there's a need for this out there. There's a niche for it. So that was the primary goal, was to tell those stories, tell them fairly, be fair to police, you know, make sure that the stories we tell are in actuality what is happening, not what the perception is or what the narrative is or whatever. So that was the first promise we made, that we would never at any point compromise our integrity for the approval of any audience. We just tell the truth and let people sort it out. Then it kind of became a way to become a part of a community, whether it's this one, whether it's the state. You know, we want to be, in everything that we do, we want to leave a positive impact on the places that we go, on the people we work with. on our readers, on our viewers, because to us, it's not just about, it's not about what we're doing and our futures entirely. It's also very much about the people that we come into contact with. We want them to leave, even if we've told a sad story, we want them to leave with a feeling of like, those are good people. That's a positive place that I just went. That's, so to us, that's very important. So I think if you wanted to boil it down in 2 sentences, we want to be a news outlet that focuses on the truth and on integrity, at the same time bettering the community we're in through service and positivity and that kind of stuff as well.
And to that point, you're known for your crime investigation and your support for law enforcement. Can you describe the relationship in your from what you've seen between police departments and the media?
Sure, and that's something, people talk about my support for law enforcement. I think I kind of want to phrase that a little differently because, right now it's people get all kinds of feelings when you say you're pro-police. Mm-hmm. To me, it's about being fair. And it's just being fair to the people that are affected by the police and being fair to the police, because both deserve to have their voices heard. To me, that's important because I grew up, my dad was a prosecutor, and I grew up around cops. And then you probably know for a while I was a volunteer firefighter and first responder. So I was behind the crime scene tape with these guys. I worked medical scenes, that kind of thing with the men and women that actually stand on that line and protect us from what would kill us. So there's a understanding that you build and a sight that you gain for what they do. You start to understand the policies, the procedures, that kind of thing. So to me, it was always very important, if you're going to attack a police officer for something that happened, did he follow procedure? If he did, he is not the problem. If you have a problem with the procedure, take it up about the procedure, not the officer. So there are a lot of things like that I feel like are important when you bring up the question of being supportive of law enforcement. But I can say that as a journalist, the terrain has changed a lot. It used to be, I jumped in with the cops, I went and did stuff, and people said, she's a great crime reporter, because she has the connections with the police to be on the front lines. Now it's kind of like, well, aren't you a little too close to your police sources? Do you really think that what you're doing is fair? Yes, it is, because I'm actually telling you what's happening. So that gets on the political side of it, but when it comes down to the media and police right now, there's a healthy distrust on both sides. And it's earned by both sides. When I talk to a police officer that's going to tell me something that's not true, I would much rather him say, we can't talk to you about that right now. But there are departments in the state that feel like they don't owe you the truth because they dislike the media. Therefore, you as the media are bad and they can talk to you bad. That is the exception. It's not usually the rule. But what that does is it makes a lot of media people say, well, we can't believe anything they say anyway. And of course, on the flip side, and it happened right there in Byram, you have a situation where a police officer drags a woman out of her car and her brother's video is released to the media. One media outlet runs it from the point where she's being dragged out and doesn't show what led to that. The rest of us reported what led to it. And understandably, the police that were involved were like, why would we ever trust that reporter again? So it's a complicated dynamic. But what you can do to overcome it as a reporter is just be fair. If you got a bad cop, understand you got to report on them. But you're not looking at somebody to be a bad cop just simply because that's the story you want to have today. So I think that makes a big difference in the way that a lot of law enforcement see the media. And it's what we can do as the media to fix things is just focus on what's the truth, not what do people want to hear right now, what's going to get us the most ratings, what's going to cause them ultimately the most outrage. That to me should not be a part of news whatsoever.
And my final question to you is, what would be your advice to a Christian entering the field of journalism?
Oh man, that's a really good question. To remember that everyone you come in contact with is someone that God loves. So whether it's a politician that makes you angry, or one thing I've seen a lot of reporters that are afraid of homeless people or that are uncomfortable in certain areas or things like that. Remember that no matter who the person is, if it's that angry police officer that won't let you on scene, and so you're mad at him, or whether it's the homeless guy that's asking you for money, or whether it's the grieving mom or the socialite that just, hosted the thing at the governor's mansion. All of them are people that Jesus died for. And he has given us a great privilege that I equate to the prophets in the Bible and the people that wrote the Bible. We're the storytellers. We're the ones that remember what the important things are and tell the stories that stick with people all their lives. So if you keep your radar really honed into him and you look for him in every situation, even when you're telling a terrible story, there can be a glimmer of hope in it. And I think that's what the world needs. But I also know he puts us in these places that we're sent. Everybody remembers, to some extent, the reporter that interviewed them. And they make their view of the media based on that. And that's a lot like being a Christian. Everybody remembers the Christian that didn't treat them right, or the one that treated them with love. And all of that goes together in that if we just treat people the way we'd want to be treated, or the way we would treat Jesus if he sat down in front of us, then you really can't go wrong with that. And you'll find that people tend to like you a lot, even having never met you, if that's just how you treat them.
Well, thank you, and
Yes,
this has been
thank
a
you.
great time.
Yeah.
And we're looking forward to to working together in the future.
Yes, definitely. I really appreciate your time. Those are good questions.
That's all we have for this week. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe on YouTube and Facebook. Thanks for watching, and we'll see y'all on Sunday.